Hey y'all, so my wife's boyfriend has been asking for a 3D printed case that you can print on a 180 by 180 print bed. And he wanted the case to have a 360mm radiator just like this. But this huge radiator wasn't enough for him. He wanted more, so we added in a 240mm radiator in the cooling loop. And as you can see, he uses a full-size GPU, full-size ATX power supply, and a full-size ATX motherboard. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can make your own. So the PC was designed by Rostapi's honeycomb wall storage system. And it's not just for looks, it actually functions as an actual wall system. So you can take the thousands of designs for the honeycomb wall storage system and use it on the case. For instance, I have this basic hook here that I can install on the case. Just like this. They just press in, and you can use it as a headphone holder. I've also made some custom accessories that fit my lifestyle. My first custom piece is a storage unit that just attaches to the side panel. You can use one of the existing holes already in the case, but I decided to print 2 more new ones just for this unit. So the first one snaps in just like this. And with the mounting holes in place, the unit goes in just like this. And then it fits these wet wipes just like this. The second custom piece I have requires 3 mounting holes, so we're going to add the third one in right now. It's going to be using this hole and this hole, plus one in the middle right over here. And with that in place, we can put the new piece in. And with this custom tray, I can hold my essentials like this Kleenex and some hand lotion. Now everything is where I want it to be as close as possible. So these would be my essentials. I'd love to hear in the comments what you would put on your case. So as you can see, there's a lot of printing you gotta do. It took me about 80 hours to print all of this out, and that's not including all my failures and all the prep time. And it took about 1.5 spools, so be prepared to buy 2 spools of the stuff that you wanna use to print this case out. I did have some problems printing out this particular part right over here. Now as you can see, some of the material got broken off, but it won't really matter because I have the clips designed so that it can work either way. Now I don't really want to talk about it too much, but as clumsy as I am, I again dropped a piece and a little part came off, but it'll still work. Thankfully, not too much post-processing is needed for all these prints. So these 3 parts have to have some supports removed, and we're going to do that right now. We'll start off with this one right here. So this has some supports over here. I'm just going to try using my hands to get these supports off. The supports came off pretty easily with my hands. Alright, so we'll try to get these big supports off now. Cool, so these supports are off on this piece. Alright, so now we got this last piece with a bunch of supports for the power supply and the motherboard. Alright, that's the power supply done. Now I'm working on the motherboard I/O area. So now we got the supports off, and they came off pretty easily, so happy about that. So this particular piece has a lot of issues with it. I think there was like a hot end failure that happened, and so I do have to clean up some of these stringing things that happened on it. And to clean them up, I'm going to try using my little deburring tool right here. All you really gotta do is just spin it around, and most of it should come off. And this is where a majority of the failure happened. Not quite sure what happened, because the rest of it printed okay, but I was definitely pushing it in terms of the overhang. If you can, you should probably use supports. But I like to live life on the wild side. And unlike me, you should probably wear some eye protection. But I'm not one to wear protection. Alright, that looks pretty good. So I think I can stop it right there. So these 5 parts here will need to have heat inserts put in, and I'm going to do that right now. And these are going to use some 6x32 heat inserts. I'm going to use my soldering iron here that has a specific tip just for heat inserts. And I have the temperature set at around 300 degrees Celsius. So the first piece we're going to do heat inserts for is going to be this PCI Express bracket holder. Got the heat insert placed in the soldering iron, and then we just push it in. And one thing you should focus on is trying to keep the soldering iron as straight as possible. And then next up, we're going to do heat inserts for the GPU holder. Let me see if I can lay it flat over here. Yeah. So instead of using tweezers, some people literally just take their fingers and place it on, and I've already burned myself enough times and I am not risking it. Those are in and they're looking good. The next holes we're gonna fill are for the motherboard, and you'll find them all throughout the other pieces. So this particular piece here has 3 mounting holes that we need to fill with heat inserts. I know this might seem intimidating for people who've never done it, but once you've done a few, it's pretty darn easy. Alright, so for this piece here, we've got 4 motherboard mounts, and so we're gonna need 4 holes being filled. You know, some plastics make like a sizzling noise for all you ASMR lovers there, but this is like a little silent when they get their holes filled. Alright, and luckily this piece only has 2 motherboard mounts, and so this should go pretty fast. And last but not least, we've got 1 motherboard hole here. So in some situations you can't get the iron perfectly straight, but you can kind of just again wiggle it into the right spot. And that should be it. Those are the holes that we need filled, and they have been filled quietly. So doctors won't recommend this, but to build this case, we're going to start from the back to the front. The back side has some custom pieces to join together, and that's why we're going to start there. So these are the back pieces that have the PSU and the motherboard I/O, and this is where the GPU will rest. And the top part is the back where the radiator and the PCI Express bracket will be placed. This might get a little confusing. So the first piece we're going to put on is this one right here. And what you'll see is that the 2 posts are on the end, but the middle is missing. And this little guy is going to go right over here. We're going to line it up and press it in slowly but steadily. And it should snap into place. Should. Alright, so that's the first connector in. Might be a little hard to see, but it's right over there. And the second connector we're going to be putting in, again, it's another triple, but so it's got a little notch on one of the end pieces. You line up where the cutoff is, right on this surface right over here, just like so. And again, it's going to be even, constant pressure to get this in. You're starting to see how the parts go together using the honeycomb wall system. The third part is going to join the bottom piece and the middle piece, and it's going to use this little guy right here. As you can see, it's very custom. So it's essentially 2 parts, but there is a large notch to accommodate for the irregular geometry of the bottom piece. And where that notch will sit will be on one of these little straight railings over here. Just line it up, and again, even pressure as you slide it in. Boom. Now, I'll be very honest, I've never done this yet, and I'm really surprised it worked on the first try. Hopefully I don't regret those words. We're now going to go to the back side where the motherboard will be sitting, and those are going to have some pretty unique pieces on its own too. So for this area for now, we're going to just be using these 2 double clips, and there's nothing really special about these. I'll be placing one of them near one of these motherboard mounts over here, so again, just line it up. Kind of struggling here. Man, it is really hard. Could I do it from the bottom? Let's see. Wish me luck. Oh, that worked pretty good. So, as you can see, it's now in. I kind of like that. I can apply even pressure to it by placing it on the table here and finding out where that gap is right over there, and I then just place it on top, apply even pressure. It's supposed to go in. There it goes. Okay. A little violent, a little scary. Not gonna lie, I'm sweating right now, but we are in. And so far, it is more solid than I thought it would be. So kudos to the honeycomb wall system. This is already looking good. All right, so we're gonna now move on to the front pieces. For the front pieces, it's gonna be kind of the same thing. The first clips are just gonna go near the front edge of these pieces here. So gonna just slot them together, find a spot, and press down. And we're in. And then moving on to the top front and the middle front, put your piece on the table and then just start pressing down on it. It's working out as planned, keeping things all together. Sweet! And to join these two front and rear pieces together, we're gonna be using a whole bunch of these clips here. These are pretty normal. There's not much modifications done to them, but their arrangement is somewhat critical. You'll see. Just make sure to follow along closely. I just realized I screwed up. One of the back pieces was not meant for the back, and I have to try to remove it. I don't know if it'll come out. So wish me luck. I screwed up. So the part we have to remove is this one right here. It had the middle portion removed, and I totally forgot that it was for the motherboard side. So don't do what I did. Let's try to get it out and do it properly this time. I'm actually quite concerned of how it's gonna come out because getting it in was quite the chore. So I'm just putting even pressure on the back side, trying not to snap these pieces because we are working on the edge of the print. Man, I am stressed out right now. I'm like, I don't know if the camera shows it, but I'm actually starting to sweat. If you've seen my other videos, I tend to break my projects pretty easily. We released it, and so this guy is actually supposed to go in the back side. But before I place this one on, I am going to put the correct piece, which is just a normal 3 unit. On your print, I'm hoping you don't screw up like I did, where I didn't put supports on some of the parts and now I have like a vacant hole. So in this guy goes. That way it's just even pressure on there. Pushing down, pushing down. All right, crisis averted. Maybe I'll just edit it out so I can look really good. This piece is missing the middle portion, is actually to clear one of the motherboard mounting holes on this piece. But we are gonna line it up there and line this up here. It's a little tight. Normally I like it tight, but oh, I just slipped right in. That piece, a little hard to see on the camera, but it goes diagonally across here over one of the motherboard mounts. Yeah, so it's just a normal thing. It just situates at the very top. You just want to make sure these parts stay together. And I'm just going to line it up. I guess I can move it so that the camera can see. I'm just making sure that the two pieces are lined up, and then as close to the edge as possible. Man, that's tight. That's kind of, oh, I keep saying it's not gonna go in, and then bloop, slides right in. Okay, so now we've got the top portions figured out. There's the 3 custom unit with the middle part missing. And then over here you have just the normal double guy. You want the first piece, which is a triple, is going to be parallel with this piece here. If you just follow this, this is the part that we can use as a reference. And now this part will be holding 3 pieces together. I'm gonna lay it back down so I can press it in. Things are getting tighter and tighter now. Once you get a few of the parts in, they all kind of just slide in eventually. All right, so you'll see again, the part is right here and it's parallel with that top one. And if you look, these two are essentially aligned with one another. Now this next double piece is just gonna join two of these panels that are kind of floating right now, right over here. Okay, let me see if I can just press it in from here. A little tight. And there it goes. The top portion should have all four panels connected now. For the bottom portion that connects the middle and the bottom, again, you'll be taking one of the triple units and one of the doubles. It is going to be parallel with these here. And there's a motherboard mount here, and this end piece is going to align with that because it's going to connect this part, and this part. And so now I'm pressing, and I think the phrase of this video is going to be, "It's a little tight." And then it goes in, so you just got to say, "It's a little tight," and then it'll just go in. We will then place one of the doubles. The bottom of this is going to sit below the motherboard mount, and then the top of this is going to sit above the motherboard mount. So I'm just going to lay it down. It's a little tight. It didn't work that time. Just gonna finagle it in and it just snaps in. Honeycomb wall system, everyone. Thing of beauty. The motherboard side is actually all put together now. We're gonna move to the top side where the 240mm radiator will go. This will be joined using these two unique pieces. There are two mounting holes side by side, and so they correspond with where the two 120mm fans meet. You'll see that the parts should line up so that the two holes for the fan aren't covered. I could also just do one last check to make sure that those holes aren't covered. Pressing away and snapped right in. And we're gonna line it up so that none of the screw holes are covered. And then press it in. Whoa, only one side went in. That's not good. Okay. Nice. I'm really surprised at how sturdy this feels in my hand. And it really is just all thanks to the honeycomb wall system. So the bottom part has 6 points, different purposes. So 2 of the parts are just to join and kind of connect these two pieces together. And the other ones are going to be to hold the case feet. Let's go ahead and get the 2 that are going to go in the middle so that it can connect the case together. You just put it so that they are kind of near the edges, and so it'll be more stable. And this one should go here. This one might need the table trick. So now I'm going to press it in. You want the feet to be at the corner, so you could go like that. You could even go like this if you want. I'm gonna go like this. This looks kind of cool. If you notice, there is a little circle here. Hard to see on that camera, but there's a circle, and that's gonna be for the drain port of the water cooling system. I'll just mirror it on this side too. I'm gonna put these guys diagonal. Being honest, for the most part, you kind of already see the case come together, and it's looking pretty cool. Now we're going to try to tackle the side panels. I'll try to have a diagram with all the information of how these go together. So it's like one big jigsaw puzzle, so you kind of have to finagle around with it. Now we're going to move on to the actual clips. It just consists of a bunch of these triplets in this orientation. And the first one we'll put up here and press it in. And then we'll do the very similar piece, and it'll be placed on the bottom edge. Press it in. Essentially there are 1, 2, and 3 pieces here, and this little triangle looking thing will connect all three at once. And kind of the same thing up here. It's going to connect the three pieces down below. The next pieces are going to again connect the three pieces over here. And we'll just snap this in place. And kind of a mirror of what happened there. Same thing on the other side. And that's it. Fairly sturdy. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 parts to the side panel, and with just let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 clips, you got a fairly sturdy and almost seamless side panel. It's very hard to tell that these are actually 7 pieces. So moving forward, we're going to be going with the front panel now. This just consists of 3 parts, and it's going to be connected with a series of these double basic clips here. These just simply slide in. There are little notches here and a mating area there, and they just slide in like so. And for the next part, essentially you do have your front panel here, but I will be putting in the clips. I'm just going to press this one here. Now, I'm going to do my little upside down table trick for this one. If you notice, there's a part here, there's a part here, and this clip will hold them together. Line it up and press down. Upside down, line them up, and now we have the front panel all joined together. We will be doing some insertion of magnets, and that'll come in the next step. So next up, we're going to be applying some magnets to the front panel, and we're going to be just using some white glue to put these in. And you could probably just get away just by pressing them in. So off camera, I pressed the magnet in already and I can't get it out. So it's very likely that you could get away with just using the friction from the pieces, but just to be safe, I'm going to be putting some white glue in the rest of the holes. Drop a little bit of glue in here. It's a tiny bit. Don't need much. And to make sure that the orientation for all the magnets are the same, I do have them kind of lined up on this little post of magnets, and I have one indicating where I want the orientation to be. So I'm just going to press this one in. It just goes in. It's a nice tight fit. That's it for the front panel. Now we're going to move on to the rest of the PC. So I did just remember I do have to put a magnet on this back part here. A little bit of glue on there. And I'm just going to do this by, I'm going to use the GPU bracket to support it from behind. They're quite tight. Throw in some glue. Now we're going to put the magnets on the side panel. Apply some white glue. I put a little R on the magnet just to make sure that I know which orientation I'll be using. And so, oh, there it goes. And then just pops in, yeah, just like that. And that should be it for the magnets. And now we're going to move on to actually putting this case together. So if you've seen my other videos, you know how much I like to play with feet. Case feet, that is. So these are the feet we're going to install right now. So I've never really used a honeycomb wall system before, so I'm not quite sure how these are supposed to fit. When I put them in, some of them clip, some of them don't. So I'm not quite sure what's that about, but just to make sure that they stay in place, I will be putting some glue on them before I put them in. And I'm just going to use some white glue. So you can put the feet anywhere you like, but near the back portion, you do want to put the feet on the clips more towards the rear, because these are going to be holding up the power supply. I think should be enough. Bottom one, I'm just going to place it right here. And it is a little looser than I thought. I thought these would, see that one kind of clipped in, but the other ones don't. I wonder what I'm doing wrong. If you know what I'm doing wrong, let me know in the comments. And so this is what I'm talking about here. So you have two holes near the middle, and you want to place the foot near to the end of it, or the rear of the case. I may or may not add one more clip in the middle here. We'll see how I feel about it near the end. Yeah, so that one kind of clipped in, and the last one. That's how you install the feet. I think I'm ready to start putting stuff into the case. And we're gonna begin by putting the I/O bracket inside the case. We are then going to install the motherboard. All right. I am going to just screw these in a little loose, just so that we have alignment all throughout, because if you tighten one right away, it may not allow wiggle room for the next screws to come in. Another reason why I love small form factor PCs is that an ATX motherboard only has 4 screws to hold the motherboard, and it just makes things faster. The radiator will be placed into the case like so, and I'll be using these screws to attach it to the case. So you just want it finger tight. And now I'll be placing the side panel on just lightly. I'm going to compress the bottom and top panels so that we have some compression on the side panels, so that we know that when we do slide it in, it'll have a tight interface. It's always nice to have a tight interface. Now I'm just tightening the rest of the screws on the radiator, and let me just slide in the rest of the panel just to get an understanding. Looks pretty good. I almost forgot to design a power switch for the case, but I'll be covering that now. So what I have here is a power switch that's going to be working with the honeycomb wall system. You could use glue or hot glue, but I'm just going to use some of this adhesive tape again. So I'm just going to apply some adhesive tape to the sides of this box. You simply just slide it through. It will sit in a little pocket designed for it, like so. And then I'm going to use some more double-sided tape, and then the top cap just simply goes on, and now we have a button. And now it should work with the honeycomb wall system. So it's a custom piece because, well, I had to house the power button, and it's also custom because this hole had to be modified. So it'll be front and center, and it should just go in. And there it goes. As you see down here, we've got this foot, and I did want to add one in the middle to kind of help support that power supply that's going to be going inside. So it's going to go straight in the middle here. I'll be using some of this double-sided tape for this one as well. Why not? It's already out. This piece here corresponds with this hole there, and I want to use that hole instead of this hole just because I know that the power supply is going to be on this side. So now we've got a total of 7 feet for the bottom. And after some more dry fitting off camera, I did find that the original GPU bracket that I had just wasn't going to work very well, and so I ended up designing a new one where I had to install some heat inserts into. And we're going to take our new bracket, place the heat insert on the tip, and now we're just going to drive it in. That went in really well. This other one. All right, and one last one. Make sure to put it a little bit ways off the edge so it's not sticking out so much. So then we have the new bracket with the heat inserts already in. So to make things easier, like with anything in life, I do have some lube in the form of distilled water and dish soap. It'll help the tube slide in way easier. And the first run we're going to be connecting is from the pump to the water block. And then before you slide anything in, you do want to place the compression fittings over each end. So before we put the radiator inside the case, we do have to attach the bracket that's going to hold the GPU PCI Express bracket. And that'll go on right over here. And there's just 4 screws that hold it together. I'm going to try installing this riser cable before it goes into the case. I know I can do it while it's in the case, but it might be easier doing it now. Things should be nice and tight, and this should be ready to go into the case now. So the way the radiator goes in, it's going to be the case wall, the fan, and then the radiator. And so you will have to use some longer screws to make this happen. And I'll be using these screws right here, and I'll show a link in the description of which ones I use. So I've got these cheapo fans here. You can use whatever fan you want to use, just make sure that they're 25 millimeters high. And what I like to do is just put in the top screws, kind of hold into place before I slide in the radiator. So with the fans in and with the top screws in, we have them set in place. We just grab our radiator with the PCI riser installed and move it into place. Once they're lined up, you can then begin turning them in. With the radiator in place, I'm now going to install the riser. So I do have a little protector, and it simply just snaps into place. Before I install the GPU, I am going to install one of the hoses. Go onto here, compression fitting over. It just goes on there. I really hope that's the right size, or at least longer than I need, because I do need to cut it down. Now I should be ready for the installation of the GPU. Alright, so now we're in, and let me install the GPU bracket holder. And obviously if you do have a 3-slot GPU, it should fit in there. I need to cut to size the tube that's going to go from the water block to the GPU inlet. Okay. That works pretty good. It's hard to see on the camera there, but I'm going to call that good. I do have another barb down here that I don't think I can get on camera. Not even sure I need the loop, but I'm going to do it anyways. Just tightening up the compression fitting, and that should be tight there. And now we have one more tubing run, which is from the radiator outlet of the 240mm up top all the way to the inlet for the 360mm radiator. And it's just going to be a straight run. Now if I had a system I knew I wasn't going to change for 4 years or whatever, then yeah, definitely go hardline. Making sure this stays more or less straight. Place this tubing on. Okay, tighten that up. So before I get the power supply, the fans, and the rest of the panels back on, I'm gonna go over the actual water loop for the system. What happens is it's going to push water into the water block inlet here. And so essentially we have 2 pumps working as one. That's gonna push water out of the outlet and into the inlet of the GPU. And then within the GPU, it's gonna circulate around and then exit behind the GPU and into the inlet for this 240mm radiator. And once it goes around the radiator, it then exits out of the outlet of the radiator down into the inlet of the 360mm rad, and that's going to be pushed up and down through the radiator and then back again into the original pump. Okay, so with the water loop all together now, I am now going to leak test it using a leak tester. Now this tool is optional, but if you do water cooling, it's a real nice to have. You fill up the loop with air, and you have a pressure gauge here monitoring how much air it loses or how much air it keeps. And obviously if it keeps air in, it means that you do have a system that's less likely to leak. And we're supposed to pump in air until it's in the green zone, and I believe it's in the green zone now. And then you fully close this valve here. The tubes are definitely a little harder. So 15 minutes has passed and the dial has not moved. The system should be airtight enough, therefore watertight as well. Now I'm going to show you a little trick that I use whenever I'm filling up my PCs, because most of my PCs are small form factor PCs, and most times I don't have room for reservoirs to help fill the systems. I do my initial filling with a reservoir attached to something else. I will be using this cylindrical reservoir. I have this male-to-male fitting that goes to the bottom of the reservoir. There isn't much clearance, so I'm also using this spacer. I will then just screw that in to the top of the radiator. I just need to add water into the reservoir and then run the pumps manually. So what I have here is a 12-volt adapter, and then I have a 12-volt adapter to a 2-pin adapter for a fan, and essentially I'm going to be running the fan directly from a 12-volt adapter so that the PC itself does not need to be turned on. So inside this bottle I have distilled water along with some biocide. Technically I could just put in some distilled water since I will be draining it almost immediately, and I'm going to start filling it now. So here we are with the first powering of the pump. Pump is going, and I think I'm just gonna let this run until maybe overnight to see if it gets any better, and then we'll continue on from there. So the system is still leak testing and purging air, and in the meantime I can install my fans for the 360mm radiator. Getting the fans on the radiator is pretty straightforward. They basically just screw on like any other fan, and just as long as you use 25mm fans, they should clear the front panel. So the system's been running for about 6 hours now. I'm not finding any leaks. We are also seeing less bubbles in the actual GPU. I do still want to continue running the loop, but I want to get this reservoir off because we don't really need it anymore. To get water out of the reservoir safely, I'm not going to pour it out. I'm actually going to suck it out. Squeeze the bottle, plunge it in, and now it'll suck water out. So I'm slowly sucking the water out, and that's about as far as it'll go. And then I'm gonna open up the container and dump it into this container. System over towards me, and hopefully I'm able to draw out even more water. Alright, I don't think much water will come out when we start unscrewing it, but you can never be too safe considering we have a computer in this case. So water did come out, but not so bad. Place that reservoir over there and do some more sucking. Let's get sucking. Alright, so I'm gonna just suck. And it should catch any of the dribble that comes out. Alright, so no spilling. This little tank here is essentially our new reservoir. So the system's been leak testing for over 12 hours now, and I don't see any water loss, so I think we can move forward with the build. Now we can install the power supply. And before I place the power supply inside, I will connect some cables because it's going to be pretty much impossible to get to them. So we've got this 8-pin CPU power cable here. Should just slide in. We've also got another 4-pin. We have 4 screws to screw in. And now it's just a matter of plugging in the rest of the power cords. We've got these 2 PCI Express power cords here. We've got this power cord here. Move this out of the way real quick to get in the 24 pin. Without these custom cables, this would have been very difficult. There, goes right here. So to close everything up, the first step is to install the side panel. There is a rail system, and you just align them and simply slide this all the way back. Now the side panel is on. And the next and final step is installing the front panel. And these will just self-locate based on the magnets you have here. And there's a few little notches that align with the case. And you just place it in. And now the case is officially done. And it should turn on when I press this button. We've got power. Fans are going. Oh, we've got something. Okay, it just took a little while to boot. When I can, I'll get through some thermal testing. Long story short, the temperatures are much lower compared to air cooling, and the system runs much quieter too. With the assembly and testing done, we can now enjoy some hero shots. If you like this case or this video, let me know by giving a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that too. I'm also opening up a Patreon, so if you want to help support this channel even more, you can find that link down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I hope you all have a good one.